In this Star Wars Outlaws video, I will be showing you brand new gameplay that I recorded, plus my impressions of everything that I have played of the game. A huge thank you to Ubisoft who invited me to play the game early, so I could share my thoughts with you. Before we do get into everything though, make sure you do subscribe to this channel so you won't miss any future Star Wars Outlaws videos. I will have tons of content with brand new gameplay that I recorded over the next few days. So, a bit of important context that you need to know about my time with the game. I got to play a total of 4 hours on the PC version. The first 3 hours were set quite early on in the story, and I won't be sharing any spoilers in terms of story in this video. The game is said to be around 25 to 30 hours in terms of story missions, so I only played a small fraction of the game and I can't give you an opinion whether the story is good or not, but the general plot setup is intriguing to me at least, and I just wanted to keep learning what happens next. Also, this is a pre-release version of the game without a couple of months worth of polish applied. On top of that, we were limited to playing on Tashara and Kajimi. With all of that key context out of the way, now for my impressions. I want to start off by gushing about the thing that impressed me the most when playing this game. The developers have done an exceptional job at creating a game that feels lively and lived in. At any given point, there can be several hundred of unique props and dozens of NPCs on screen. This to me is what an open world Star Wars game needed to be and sets a benchmark for Star Wars games. When you look at the cities and settlements in this game in comparison to Jedi Survivor's Rambler's Reach, they completely blow it out of the water. It is seriously impressive just how filled this game is with Star Wars stuff. It is so Star Wars. You will find so many unique assets that continue to impress me as I play the game. It does not feel like the game's world is littered with repeated props. You could spend hours looking at every corner of the game and thinking about the background of each item. The sheer density of NPCs and assets across the game world at this great graphical fidelity is a new standard in Star Wars gaming. You can lose yourself in listening to NPCs being questioned by stormtroopers or friends discussing things. It's really immersive. For example, I overheard a guy in a cantina telling a friend that he stashed some treasure somewhere at this really specific location that no one will know about. Well, now you know, so you can go to that location and steal the guy's items. It's all optional, but I do feel like that there are these little quests that you can do to enrich your life a little bit in the game and feel like you're doing a bit of the more outlaw-esque things. There's also no loading screens either, aside from the takeoff and landing sequences, much like Jedi Fallen Order and Survivor. Just a few seconds after takeoff, you'll be able to resume control of your ship and fly in orbit. No loading screens, aside from loading done through this takeoff sequence, really does help the game feel like it is an open world of various planets rather than just moving from map to map. It is also strange to be playing so much where stormtroopers don't care about you one bit. I like it. It's a nice change. In settlements, you can bump into them and they'll tell you to stop, but you can't attack them or upset them too much aside from stealing from them using nicks. You will be arrested and you'll start over from a previous checkpoint. In other areas in the game's worlds, you will be able to fight Imperials and then get a wanted level, and some missions will see you get a wanted level because you are on, say, an Imperial space station and you get caught, and it is all part of the story. The reputation system is one of the core pillars of this game, and every mission and choice you make affects your reputation with the various crime syndicates. It was fun to make decisions mid-job to either screw over those that hired you for this job for more money or stay loyal. Even though Kay's main story has been written by Ubisoft, you are still writing your own path to those main story beats. The same can be said about NPCs. You can choose to help them or not. It's entirely up to you. It was funny to have a good reputation with Crimson Dawn, which allowed me to gain easy access into a location of theirs. There, I could sneak around some areas that I weren't actually allowed to be in, steal an upgrade, and get out undetected. In terms of enemy variety, I would say that fighting each faction does not feel extremely different, at least based on the limited amount of time I've played, but I did notice things like the Crimson Dawn troopers throwing far more grenades than, say, the Ashiga clan or Pike Syndicate. Also, fighting the Empire does change things up quite dramatically, of course. That's a bit more traditional, where you have the standard stormtroopers, officers, and then a heavy trooper with a massive rotary cannon, along with Viper droids as well. The Empire are very different in terms of what they have at their disposal compared to the Crime Syndicate, so that's good. I did not experience many random events in the open world as I spent my time doing the story mode for the most part. I did come across some pikes that started attacking me for passing through one of their regions. I had a low rep with them, hence why they attacked, but it was not annoying as I just kept driving past them. You don't have to fight if you don't stop. I think the missions I played were different enough in design. They weren't all simple fetch quests. There were various stages that were different enough from each other and made use of the different mechanics in the game. There was quite a lot of variety. Some missions can be approached differently by everyone, so in particular I noticed that how to get into a location for this mission can vary in some cases. An example I can give is I could either pay an NPC who has a pass to get through the front door of this locked area, or find a vent and sneak inside. Side note, I liked going in first person perspective when crawling through the vents. I think it's done relatively smoothly. Speaking of things that are smooth, I was pleasantly surprised just how good and smooth the movement was. Good feeling movement is an important part of games for me. I love fluid flowing combat and traversal. I enjoy the gunplay, even if basic. It's somewhat similar to Battlefront 2's gameplay, but still, for a single player game it's quite basic, though blowing stuff up is very enjoyable. Shooting does feel a little bit inaccurate than you may think, but that's designed like that on purpose. Kay is not a master gunslinger, so Massive has reflected that in the gunplay. The cover system is great though, it is smooth and works very well. The same can be said about punching, rolling, and sliding. The punches are super satisfying in this game. Running up to an enemy and then just fluidly punching them just feels so good. It works so well. I just love sliding down ramps, jumping, rolling, all over the place in this game. You can chain that movement with the combat. Honestly, I do miss not being able to pick up a controller and play this game and get that same satisfaction from sliding and punching. It's been a few weeks since I played, and I just wish I could do it again. Release day can't come soon enough. The climbing is basically the same as Jedi Survivor, so it feels just fine. Kay's body language through the animations is not that of a Jedi, so it does not feel like you have superpowers, but still capable of getting around without frustration. The grappling hook is also nice to use. It is limited to certain points, but it feels fine in the hand. The talk of movement and combat leads me right into my thoughts on stealth in this game. I love stealth in games, and that tends to be my go-to way of dealing with situations. With Outlaws, you do have the freedom to be stealthy if you would like to. It is also necessary in some missions, as if you get caught, you'll be taken back to the start of the mission. For example, I was tasked with stealing something from within a building ran by the Ashiga clan. Every time I got caught, they took me out of the front door, I lost some reputation, and I had to try again. In another mission set on an Imperial space station, the first half is all about stealth, but then it became a Star Wars blockbuster, as you have to go loud. The AI did not feel super smart, and maybe felt a little bit outdated, but at least it wasn't so difficult. I also did not have any issue with only being able to carry Kay's blaster to keep with me at all times. The multiple modes on Kay's blaster were fine to use for different situations. Running and picking up an E11 from the floor or a sniper on a box felt great. It just did. It made them feel more rewarding. A traditional E11 just felt better to pick up rather than just starting with it. There were plenty of, say, E11s around, and not having to inventory manage blasters and its ammo was a nice change. There are plenty of side activities to do for fun as well. You can just live in the world, you don't have to keep doing story missions. These include 6 arcade games, Favia race gambling, Sabacc, changing the music on the Cantina jukeboxes, and more. Some of these cost credits, but also some give you the ability to earn credits. But again, they are all completely optional and just add to the immersion. Let's now talk about Nyx, because he is a key part of the gameplay. You can have him do a lot of things. He's very helpful for stealthily taking out enemies or picking up items that saves you time. It's a smart way of giving you more abilities without Kay feeling like she's a superhero when in reality she's just a rookie thief. Having Nyx play dead to distract enemies was so much fun and won't get old. You won't find any damage numbers or those sort of elements, which is great. Combat is clean, and it does not feel like a looter shooter or something. You can find a lot of materials on the ground though, and use these for credits and upgrading parts. They are items that you can pick up whilst running or walking, so it doesn't really slow you down too much, although there is quite a lot of it, and I felt that was maybe a little bit too much. But I didn't use anything I picked up in my play session, I don't think, so you can literally just ignore them if you wish to do so, unless you really care about upgrading certain things quicker. I just thought the idea of finding a scrap heap and then picking up something that doesn't look like that a little bit jarring, but at the same time, the rest of the game is really immersive and it's something that you can probably ignore. There is a photo mode with some nice features I think people will be very pleased with. In terms of performance, it was good considering the settings that we had turned on. So the system that we played on had it running at 4K 60 frames per second with high and ultra settings with DLSS 3 enabled as well. Now, it was a high-end PC, but that was also the case at the Jedi Survivor preview event. I said in my Jedi Survivor preview video that the frame rate had issues in gameplay and that worried me, and I was right to be worried. Whereas with Outlaws, I am more confident. There was some noticeable LOD pop-in occasionally, plus lower frame rate areas and a handful of cutscenes later on in the game, but then it was fine when it switched to gameplay. To me, that is something that it looks like it could be fixed with a day one patch. Some gameplay areas did drop below 60, but I was also playing at 4K high/ultra settings. I would not play at that sort of resolution, but it's still something to keep in mind. I had to have a look at the graphics settings menu to see what sort of settings I was playing in and what the menu actually looked like, and it was as I had hoped. It is very, very good. It is yet another new standard for Star Wars gaming. Outlaws' PC settings menu makes Jedi Survivors look like a child's first game. Absolutely no complaints when it comes to audio. The soundtrack and sound design are all very good, and it's what you'd expect from Star Wars. I now want to talk about the things that were not as good about the game. The cutscenes were fine, but did not feel as high quality as Jedi Survivor. That game felt like it could be an expensive film, whereas Outlaws felt a bit lower budget in comparison due to the lighting, framing, and depth of field sometimes looking off. It's not bad, but it just feels a bit unfinished, a bit dated, a step down from the most recent Star Wars games, but better than older ones. It did have a lot of cutscenes transition seamlessly to gameplay like Jedi Survivor, which I appreciate. I think that adds to the immersion. Some of the NPCs that you talk to in cutscenes do see a downgrade in animation quality or just the performance compared to, say, Kay. It does feel a little jarring having Kay appear very lifelike, whereas NPCs that she has conversations with in cutscenes are a tad robotic in their movements. Some of the visual effects are also a bit dated, such as explosions in some cases. These things stood out to me because the rest of the game is of a high quality. Plenty of the other animations and visual effects do look great though. I understand cuts may have been made in this area for performance reasons, but I would really love to see further optimization for better looking animations whilst maintaining a solid 60 frames per second and above. There's always a chance a pre-release patch does improve these things. A part of the game that disappointed me the most was the speeder and its physics. If I crashed into a rock, it would get stuck there if I hit it. It did not go onto its side or flip or anything. It would just stay where I fell off it until I got back on it. This took me out of the great immersion that the rest of the game gave me. I was expecting a bit more GTA motorbike feeling, but instead it felt outdated, which is not good considering GTA 5 came out over a decade ago. You can crash into things and they'll take damage. For example, lamps can be broken by driving into them. Also, K falling off does not really have true ragdoll effects, so it feels a bit dated there as well. As for animals, if you go near and mess with them, they do react, but perhaps less than I would have thought, at least with the ones that I noticed. Although a bunch of the animals can be petted, so that's some points I'm sure for some people. You also cannot use your speeder in, say, populated settlements. You have to get off to proceed into an area like that, and then go out of the area if you wish to call your speeder to your location. Of course, this is a Star Wars game, not GTA, so I did not expect you to be able to run everyone or any animal over, but I was hoping for more of a reaction from the AI when you did certain things. Another issue I had with the speeder was the troublesome camera control. However, there are plenty of settings in the menus that you're able to tweak, so maybe you'll be able to customize it to your liking. I personally did not have enough time to change settings like that to suit me, but I am happy to spend time dialing in the feel of a game if there are settings to do that, but I know that isn't for everyone. I'd obviously prefer if it was great out of the box right away. Also, this is your speeder, so you cannot go around taking other speeders or get another one in any way. It isn't all bad for the speeder though. You get a nice sense of speed even if it feels a bit stiff at the start, but the dodging mechanic is good. I just wanted to go faster. Luckily there are plenty of upgrades to improve speed and such. I play the game from when you get the speeder for the first time, so this character of a vehicle will only improve if you unlock new parts for it. Just like the Trailblazer, customization is not limited to performance upgrades and features, but you can change how it looks with paint and trinkets. Also, the ship has the ability to change engine trails, which is just awesome. Speaking of ships, onto ship combat, and it just felt far too lightweight. The Trailblazer did not have the heftiness of a ship that size should. It just felt too light in my hands, especially compared to, say, ships in Star Wars Squadrons. Sure, that's not a great comparison because that game is a flight sim, but I was hoping for a bit more of a feeling. The closest comparison I can give is the starfighters in Battlefront 2, but those controls I would still say feel a little bit heavier, especially the heavy starfighters. I do appreciate how easy you can make ship combat though. I know many people just don't like flying, especially in Star Wars games, and there are settings and buttons to make it super easy or more difficult. For example, there is one singular button which is auto-aim, so you don't even have to think if you are just frustrated with flying. The game not only gives you the freedom to do whatever you want in the galaxy, but also how easy or hard you want to make it for yourself. Games are for everyone, just like Star Wars is. In certain areas, such as cantinas and other key locations, you can't sprint as fast as you can when you get outside. This is a point of frustration to me whenever this happens in games, because I want to sprint over the place all the time. In select areas, it locks your speed during this game, and you can still jog, but there is an artificial limit on sprinting. I just wish this was removed. There are also various minigame puzzles required to get through the game, such as lockpicking. I could not do the lockpicking puzzle with the data spike well. It was a bit frustrating and it cost me time, but all of the puzzles in the game can be turned off in the settings, so you don't have to waste any time on them if you don't want to. You can just skip them without feeling bad. I also just want to quickly say that the aesthetics of the displays for some of the minigames are superb. I like how clean the menus were and the design language, but at the same time, I did feel like I was getting a little bit lost when I wanted to find stuff. The map is fine, but I did also find myself getting lost actually in the game world. The compass and map were not as helpful as I would have liked, but I also didn't necessarily explore all of the ways to make it easier for myself. I only had limited time to play, and I probably should have set a waypoint, but did not notice them until later on in my playthrough. How far you are from an objective is displayed when playing, but it felt like it wasn't as helpful to get straight to the point. I sometimes just want to get right to it. Something that I didn't spend much time on but I couldn't figure out how to work was fast travel. So it is in the game and you can see an icon for it in the map for where you want to go for the various points that you can use fast travel at. Now, when I went up to one, I could not figure out whereabouts to go exactly. It was weird. Each individual area of a planet will have a fast travel location, which is great. But again, I tried on one location and just could not figure out where on earth to activate it. Having said that, it's probably easy. I just missed it, or that specific one was bugged or something. I don't know. I hope you found this video insightful, and I will be showing you more gameplay of Outlaws, answering your questions about the game, and sharing some interviews with some of the key developers and cast in more videos this week. If you enjoyed this video, please do drop a like to help support the channel, subscribe so you don't miss any future Star Wars Outlaws videos, and if you did miss any of my previous videos, click on the playlist on screen right now, and I shall see you in my next video. Goodbye.